right, everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Unwinding with Support Group. Today I have another guest with me. And before we get to introducing our guest, as a reminder, I am Arlene. I'm a licensed professional counselor. It's an LPC. My guest for today is Mena. She is an LMHC, which is a licensed mental health counselor. Really, just depending on what state we're in, depends on what those letters mean. So we're both counselors. It's really what I'm trying to say at the end of all of that. So Mena's with me today.
Hello. LMHC, licensed mental health counselor, just in a different state from Arlene, that's all.
Today's topic is going to be boundaries. And before we jump into that conversation, we're going to talk about what we're having to drink. And this time around, I have Captain Morgan apple
Right.
flavored with apple cider, which, to be fair, is quite yummy.
Mhm.
So it's my drink for tonight.
Yeah.
Which, as I'm saying this is called unwinding, and I have yet to have a glass of wine. So one of these times, I'm going to get some wine.
Yes.
All right, Mena, what do you got to drink tonight?
I have seltzer, specifically Pample Mousse. I think that's what it's called. It's a LaCroix flavor. It's actually grapefruit. I don't know why they make it fancy, but it is just grapefruit seltzer, which is a lot better than the lemon, surprisingly, because I usually go for a lemon. So, yeah.
Awesome. Love it. Everybody's over here like, oh, that sounds so fancy. All right. So our topic, as I said, is boundaries. And per usual, we'll give a little intro into what that is. Boundaries, those are the things that you set to keep yourself healthy, to keep yourself safe. They come in lots of forms. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about boundaries that you set with loved ones that have mental health um, difficulties, how you're setting your own boundaries, and how to accept when boundaries are set on you. The thing that everybody struggles with, it feels like. But with that, boundaries, how you set your boundaries when your loved one has a mental health condition. That can be hard because you love them. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a little bit hard with loved ones because it's very easy to do, I think, clinically, right? When you're in session, I think it's a given in most cases. Sometimes you do have to reinforce those boundaries, but in most cases, it's easy for you to enforce boundaries in session. But when it's with family, you have your own dynamics before you were even a therapist. And so you have to implement those to start off, right? So, ah, I guess limiting certain topics and conversations depending on like the emotional toll that it takes on you. I think that's kind of a hard one sometimes. Um, Boundaries with your own space when you need it, right? Boundaries with your own time when you need it. So knowing after a long work day, probably don't want to talk too much after work. And so that's a boundary my family had to learn, right? And so yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on what we're looking at. How do you implement boundaries with your family, Arlene?
Um, Very similarly, it's a little bit different now with the work at home, which, by the
Hmm.
way, I love.
Yeah.
But when I had to commute, I needed like a 10 to 15-minute window
Absolutely.
uh, to like get into some space. And so just especially communicating with my kids of like, I want to hear what your day is and how school went, and I wanted to hear all the things, but I need to 10 to 15 minutes so I can be like present.
Absolutely.
But really just like communicating that with them and explaining it because they were my kids.
Yeah.
I was like, I have listened to people all day,
Yep.
and I do want to be present as your parent and be here, but I need to be a blob for like 10, 15 minutes and just
Yep.
exist. And then I can really be here. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of, yeah, uh-huh,
Hmm.
And I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But really, just that's one of the biggest ones.
Absolutely. Yeah. My mom always says, I know you're not here when all I get is yep, yep, yep. It's like, all right, we'll talk later then, because she just knows that she's talking to an empty brain at that point. So yeah, absolutely.
Lights on, nobody's home.
Yep. Exactly.
Um, Setting your boundaries really just kind of look different for everybody. You're right, for different dynamics. Um, so one of the biggest things is like understanding yourself. You mentioned time, and I
Absolutely.
think that's one of the biggest ones people like don't look at when they talk about setting boundaries because you feel like beholden to certain relationships and for certain things, and there's only so much time in a day and there's only so much time in a week, and you have responsibilities and you have relationships, and so it feels like you have to be in all these places at all the time, and you just end up getting pulled and don't set a boundary of like, I just need to stay at home today. And while I would love to go hang out with you, I pay for my home for a reason.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing sometimes I think, and it is a struggle sometimes when you do work from home, right? And in learning when you need to actually leave the house and when you need to actually just have the boundaries to stay at home so that you can, I don't know, rejuvenate or bring yourself back together, right? So having boundaries of not waiting for an excuse for you to not go outside, like it's raining today. Thank God I can stay home, right? Having those boundaries of I choose to stay home today, even though it's sunny out, because I just need that time for myself today. Yeah, absolutely. But just, time also in the sense of, you know, I I have a social battery today for an hour, right? So I'm not going to be able to spend more than an hour and respecting that boundary for myself, but also reinforcing that boundary for other people too. So,
Yeah, you hit on something I think is big is understanding the difference between an introvert's boundary versus an extrovert's boundary, and they are completely different.
mhm.
Like recognizing introverts can only be extroverted for so long before they need to blanket burrito to recharge.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Where for extroverts, they generally recharge by being extroverted.
Right.
Being around people helps them to recharge. Introverts are like, okay, listen, we have been here for exactly 42 minutes and 35 seconds, and
Right.
I'm gonna need to go.
Right. Like I'm at 1% battery, you gotta let me go because otherwise you're gonna get nothing out of me. And it just, yeah. Yeah, it's hard. So you have to know yourself too to reinforce those boundaries for sure. I think learning more about yourself and what your capabilities are helps you reinforce boundaries for yourself.
I do. And I think the biggest thing is a lot of people expect other people to respect your boundaries and other people to just be like, yeah, okay, that's a boundary. And not
Mhm.
everybody does.
Mhm.
And that's your boundary. So that's on you, which
Absolutely.
is sometimes very hard, but also recognizing that's your boundary. It's no one else's responsibility but yours.
100%. Yeah, I think that's where it gets I think that's where it's kind of difficult sometimes when if you care about someone and you value them or you don't want to hurt their feelings, you feel that you don't want to enforce these boundaries, right? But if anything, it ends up straining the relationship over time because you keep giving, 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 right? And it ends up draining you over time. And so at times you start becoming resentful of the people that you're putting down these boundaries for, right? Because you're draining yourself. And so then it impacts the relationship negatively instead of it just being healthy because of boundaries. But I think that's something that you were going to touch base on, Arlene, right?
Yeah, I think that's like you said, like it's more it's a short term, it's like a short term stressor
Hmm.
that you learn to address and deal with by setting the boundary. And then, like long term, if you don't have boundaries, it just becomes extremely unhealthy and problematic. So it's long term pain. And so, yes, there's discomfort in both ones, but one is very short term.
Right.
versus one very long term.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I think that's where you and I think it took me personally a while to learn how to have boundaries, right? Because I have part of me has this like at least when I was younger had this very people pleasing tendency, but I was also very introverted, right? And so I was trying to always give, but I was also always feeling drained. And so over time I had to learn how to enforce these boundaries, and it was very difficult at the beginning because I felt like I was hurting people's feelings. But over time, it's like, all right, well, I mean, if I hurt your feelings for a little bit, that's okay. I mean, I that's not my intention. I'm just trying to protect myself and the relationship that we have. And so if that is upsetting you temporarily, we can talk through it if we're good at communicating. But otherwise, I mean, I don't know
yeah.
what to say. So,
No, I agree with you because I'm with you in the beginning. I also had a hard time because this is not a skill set that was provided to me as a child. So it's a skill set I had to learn as an adult.
Mm,
And when you're behind the eight ball like that,
yeah.
it makes it difficult.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, okay, I need to learn this, and you're right. Like, there's lots of, there's people pleasing and trauma and being the oldest,
Yeah.
um, dynamics of lots of reasons why like boundaries aren't existing. But learning to do them takes takes work.
Was.
You do feel like the bad guy at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
then,
people and then the people you're putting the boundaries on make you feel like the bad guy, which is why we're gonna address how to accept when boundaries are put up.
yeah, no, absolutely. And they push back on those boundaries, right? And
Yeah.
so you have to keep putting the boundaries until they're finally respected. But that process to begin with, especially if you didn't have boundaries with someone before, that process of putting the boundary until it's finally respected is not an easy process. And so you have to be willing to push yourself to
Yeah.
enforce that boundary, right?
Yeah. I think this is a good point to where we talk about like how boundaries are different. Like some are flexible,
Hmm.
right? Like some are very flexible. Like I can be okay with like we need to be a place on time and be flexible that we're not. Just as an example, but like so other ones are super rigid, like right? Like abuse, emotionally, physically,
Yeah.
right? Any sexual abuse, like that's a hard boundary. That's concrete. Like we're not doing that,
Right.
right? You're not going to put your hands on me. Like those are concrete boundaries type of things. And there are just a lot of in betweens.
Hmm.
And your boundaries vary in relationships. What might be concrete in one relationship also might be flexible in another.
100%. That's why open communication is so important, right? Making sure you're both on the same page.
Yeah.
That's what I think that's how you can respect each other's boundaries by talking through them,
Oh,
right?
agreed. And I also think it's like, A, that's the biggest part, but also you can make what was a flexible boundary more concrete if you need to.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And that's saying, hey, this is just like a hard no for me, right? There's no
Like,
flexibility here. Yeah. Yeah.
and it's also, you don't ever have to always say you're like, I'm setting this boundary. Like, it's not like that's the language you have to have. It's just like, this is just not okay to me. Like,
Right.
this is not acceptable. Like, we're not going to do this. Like, I don't like how I'm being treated.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of ways to have those conversations that aren't like, well, that's a boundary for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes. You have to approach it, right? In a proper way. Like it can't be like the first time it happens and you just flat out say this is a boundary for me, right? It's about how you frame it. And it depends on the person that's in front of you too, right? So depending on who you're talking to and how your relationship is with them, you
Sure.
kind of have, yeah, you communicate that boundary. Absolutely. So yeah, saying something like, kind of really bothers me when I'm trying to, go home at 8. right? Because I know that's when you usually want to go to sleep, right? And you still want to hang out. And you know, we both have to go home at that time because I have work in the morning, right? So, like, you know, if you want to stay, I can take my car and you can take yours, for example. Like, that's a boundary, right? That's an expectation. You guys talk through it, see what works out for both of you, and it's kind of a learned experience from there. But, you know, that's just a random example of maybe respecting time or creating boundaries with time or space or whatever it may be.
Also, just, respecting that I have responsibilities and
Yeah,
I have other things to do. So that's
yeah,
just awesome.
boundaries with my family. Like when I'm working, you can't talk to me, right? Because that's a big problem. That's
That
like
was good.
kind of like a red line boundary though, right?
Right, that one is a big one.
Right.
But actually, that's a good segue into like, as we're talking about setting some boundaries with different relationships, of setting boundaries with someone who struggles with their mental health, right? You have a loved one who struggles with their mental health. And these ones, I think, for people are a lot harder. And obviously, depending on what the disorder is and what that is, it just really. But I think at least in my experience, I think families get frustrated and then they start setting concrete boundaries where they've missed opportunities to set, like,
Yeah.
hey, this behavior
Yeah. They
isn't
wait
okay.
up until they need to set those boundaries. Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. Yeah. I do think, go ahead, Arlene. You're going to say something.
No,
Yeah.
go
No,
ahead.
no, I mean, yeah, I do think it's hard. I mean, if you have a family member or even a friend, right, that has mental health like issues going on or like mental health concerns and they use you as their sounding board, right? Of course, you should be there for your friend. Of course, you should hear your friend out if they're going through something. But if it's more time than not, you shouldn't be your friend's therapist, right? And that's when you kind of had to put that boundary. Like even if your friend is a therapist, you can't use your friend as a therapist because your therapist friend is probably exhausted after doing an entire day of therapy. And so, not just that, they're biased, right? We're biased. We can't give the same advice that we would give to our friends as we would, or family as we would for our member or for our clients, right? And that's the thing. So not only are we biased, but we can't be that for them. And so that is an important boundary to have. I think a lot of times family assumes, well, hey, you're in the field, you should know how to fix this. And it's like, well, I would have fixed me. So
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. I mean, there is the family aspect of like, oh, you must solve everybody's problem because you're in the mental health field. Like, no, bro, no. As a matter of fact, I strictly stay away from any mental health thing because I am trying not to diagnose you motherfuckers on a regular
right,
basis.
it's very easy to do that by your very, very easy to do.
Like, accidentally, son of a bitch, stumbled across a diagnosis and I'm angry for 3 days.
I'm like, damn,
Uh,
this bitch has had bipolar for like my entire life. I'm just picking that shit up now.
son of a bitch, it explains so much and I'm angry because I try not to do that. I get so like, no. Uh, but uh, my brain is just like, oh, you know what that is? No.
Like, damn it, I was trying to escape for like 30 minutes.
No, I don't know what that is, and I don't want to know. Shut up. Um, but being able to say like, "Hey, this is right," like you said, you being there for a friend, for a loved one, and that like goes to a point too, right? If it's become too much for you, if it's starting to become problematic in your life, like you don't always have to give all of you to someone else if they're not if they're just taking.
Yep,
And that applies to people with mental health struggles as well. Like,
absolutely.
just because there's a diagnosis doesn't mean that they are absolved from some accountability as well of like addressing things too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I do think that it gets tricky, especially with family and people you care about, right? You want to give them everything that you have, but at some point, does it become more harmful than helpful? Yeah, because they're not using the proper resources that they actually need.
Yeah, I think the biggest one is always the rescuing.
Yep.
You know, I gotta save them. That's my fill in the blank.
Mhm.
My sister, my child, my brother, my baby, whatever
Yeah.
you fill it in. Uh,
Yeah, and you get
Rescuing
triangulated.
doesn't work.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's so easy to get triangulated too, right? Like reinforcing boundaries of like, I'm not going to solve your marital problems. I'm not going to talk to both you and your partner about the problems. I can help give advice maybe once in a while as a friend, but I
Yeah,
can't be your couple's therapist, right? I can't be your a couple's counselor for you guys. And so having boundaries and maintaining those distinctions, right? That difference between I'm your friend and I'm your therapist. Yeah.
for sure. I think it's important of like recognizing that rescuing behavior, like within families with someone with mental health is like always starts from a good place of I want to help.
Hmm.
And then not everybody does this, not every family member is like guilty of this, but it does happen where like that there's just so far and then the individual with like whatever mental health disorder and there's a many of them,
Hmm.
right? Like from substance use to OCD, where families are so intertwined in compulsions, to bipolar,
Yeah.
to BPD. Like we can go through plethora of lists where that need to like rescue and help becomes like you're
Maladaptive.
now feeding the disorder and not helping with
Right.
allowing the individual to stand up, do the hard work, and
Yeah.
learn to do the coping,
Yeah.
which is the only way they're going to get through it on their own. And
Yeah.
that's always hard because I get it. Nobody wants to see their family member, their loved one struggle, but like life is full of struggle in one way, shape, or form. And unfortunately, like you gotta let your baby sometimes stand up and
Yeah, you have to
do
let
the
them
thing.
struggle a little bit in order for them to build tough skin. I mean, they don't need to suffer, right? But they do have to figure it out on their own at some point in order for them to become successful in life. But if you're constantly meeting their needs all of the time and you're putting down your own boundaries, you're not only, again, you're not only harming them, but you're essentially harming your relationship with them because they might grow resentful that you babied them for so long, right?
Yeah.
And you're harming yourself by just draining yourself and constantly letting down your own boundaries that you're exhausted. I mean, you're giving everything, but it's not paying off because you're not the right person to do that for them.
Yeah. Well, there's that relationship. There's other relationships that you have that are impacted negatively. Like it's just a spiraling impact because you are giving more to one relationship that isn't yours to give, which is why, like, yeah, I know it sucks to be like, listen, I'm sorry that you have fallen down. I love you, but like it's time to stand up. Figure out how to stand up on your own. I don't know what to do. Like, here's the resources.
Yeah, I can
Go
help you
for it.
find your way, but I'm not going to baby you along the way.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna hold your hand while you do it. Those are the important ones of just sometimes people need that.
Yeah,
And then they become more independent and able to manage their distress, and that improves self-confidence.
100%. Yeah. And we know this about avoidance, right? If you avoid confronting the hard things, it's just going to reinforce whether it be depression, whether it be OCD, whether it be anxiety, whether it be PTSD, right? All of that just makes the symptoms worse. And I'm probably not naming a lot of other diagnoses that are, are influenced or are impacted just by avoidance alone. And so, yeah, you can't avoid everything that makes you uncomfortable in life.
No, you can't avoid anything that makes you uncomfortable. Not like really. I mean, when we're talking about like overcoming your mental health diagnosis.
I mean,
You
otherwise,
you have to go forward to grow.
right? Right, you're gonna stay in the same place forever, and that's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well then let's talk about the fun one.
Mm,
The one everybody's like, what
yeah.
happens when somebody sets a boundary on me and I want to tell them to fuck off?
It's hard too, right? Because you almost get offended, like, I'm the boundary queen, like, I'm so good at reinforcing boundaries for myself, but yeah, when someone reinforces a boundary with you, you almost get taken aback for a second, but what I think as you grow, right, and as you, like, grow into yourself, you need to respect those boundaries, right? You have to respect those boundaries because otherwise, why would they respect your boundaries, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if I won't respect the fact that someone needs to just take 5 minutes to breathe after work every day, why would they respect my boundary to need to do the same?
Mhm.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that come up for me
Yeah.
with this conversation is disagreements and arguments
Hmm.
between people, right? And the need to take a break, take a time out
Yes.
because things are getting too heated, right?
Yes.
That's a boundary of setting, like, I need to take a time out. I need to go recoup and calm down before I say things I'm not gonna mean and I'm gonna hurt you. And because I care about you, I don't want to do that. That's a fucking boundary, right?
100%.
And when someone tells you that's how they want to engage in calming down and they tell you why,
Hmm.
A, they're trying to communicate this is healthy for them.
Right?
B, they know themselves. So
Yeah.
they're trying to keep this on point to the disagreement and not make it personal.
Right.
So they don't harm the relationship.
Absolutely.
And if you, as the person they're telling this to, then just fucking stalks them through the house of like, no, we're gonna finish this fucking argument right now. I don't
Yeah.
give a fuck. You like that is a like you're now trampling on the relationship in the attempt of like we have to finish this right now when really like that's actually what they're trying to avoid.
Right. Right. You're gonna hear things, or they're gonna say things that they regret. They're gonna feel bad. You're gonna feel bad because they're gonna say things that hurt you, right? Like just like you said. And so
And
if
then
they
it'll just escalate because they're gonna say shit, then you're gonna say shit,
yeah,
then they're gonna say some more shit, then you're gonna say some more shit. And before you know it, we done said some shit that
yeah,
neither one of us meant to say and we can't take back.
yeah, no,
It's
absolutely.
out there.
Yeah, I think that is a very big boundary that people need to respect. Like if you need to cool off, you have to respect that boundary because all it's going to do is just add fuel to the flame if you don't give them those 5 minutes to just gather their brain cells so that they can have the common sense to have an actual conversation again. So, yeah.
I think that's just like a great example of like it's uncomfortable for someone to say, hold on,
Mhm. Yeah.
I can't finish this right now.
Yeah, it takes a
And
lot of
you to go
willpower.
like, nah, motherfucker, we need to finish this. I
Right.
have things to say.
Right. Yeah.
And they're
You're
like, yeah, I hear you, but so do I, but we need to separate and
absolutely.
recognizing like what that is,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Because
Like
yeah. You basically have you shook a soda bottle, right? And so this soda bottle is trying to contain itself inside, and you are just trying to open this can, and the can is like, I need a minute because
just
otherwise,
leave me on the counter. I
right, let me
promise.
cool off, give me 5 minutes, and then you can open me, and then I'll be a great drink for you. But no, right? If they open that can after you shook it up, it's just gonna explode everywhere and half the bottle's gone and you're not
And now
enjoying.
you got a giant mess to clean up.
Right. Absolutely. I that came up with that analogy on the whim. That was
I
pretty good.
love that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That was spot on. Should use that again. Um, but like that's just the truth. That's like a prime example of like it's uncomfortable when someone sets that boundary and because you don't like it because your needs, you don't feel like your needs are being met in that moment.
Right.
Understanding that, like, even in that analogy, that person is trying to preserve the relationship, they're
Yes.
setting their boundary for them. It's not about you.
Right.
It might really, really feel like it is, but it isn't about you at all. And so when someone sets a boundary,
Mhm.
if you can take a step back and
Mhm.
recognize that this has nothing to fucking do with you.
Right.
Which I know is hard for people to do,
Mhm.
but recognize
Yes.
that they set a boundary for them.
Yes. You know, in all of reality too, it's for them, but it's also for the sake of the relationship and the dynamic, right?
Yeah,
Like they're trying not to hurt your feelings. They're also trying to protect themselves. And so either way, whether it's about you or not, you need to respect that boundary. Like it doesn't
100%.
like you said, it's not about you. If it's there, it needs to be respected whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Trying to push over someone's boundaries just doesn't work well for the relationship. And honestly, the only way to have really healthy relationships is
Mhm.
for them there to be boundaries in it. Like,
Right.
this is what is okay. This is what's not okay. This is, we can do this and we can't do that. And this is where we're going to go. And this is what it's going to be. Like,
Yeah.
every relationship you have has to have boundaries
Yeah. That
for
that
it to be healthy.
yeah, that does like kind of make me think of something though. Like if someone were to implement a boundary, right? Like let's say I need a moment right now to cool off so we can talk later. Let's talk later about this. After later comes, now this person is saying they respected your boundary in that moment, but now they're saying, I don't want to talk now, right? And this is them kind of what, like getting back at you for implementing this boundary as if you did something wrong. I think that should be kind of that should be brought up because this is when someone puts a boundary, right? It's not a moment for you to retaliate, right? They're not doing this to upset you or offend you. They're doing this to protect themselves and again, potentially the relationship. So you have to respect that. So when it does come the time for them to talk, if you're not just being stubborn, but you do need time to cool off yourself, then communicate that, right? But if it's to kind of get back at them or punish them for the fact that they needed a minute, you should probably not do that because you're affecting the relationship negatively.
Also correct.
Yeah.
Now, also in that as well, nothing's getting fucking solved.
Right.
You're just
Right.
gonna be arguing about the same shit at some
Yep.
other point. Could we just solve this and move along?
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, it's kind of like trying to find a balance between communication and boundaries, right?
Yeah. I mean, really, they go hand in hand.
100%. I mean, you can't have boundaries unless you communicate them. So,
Exactly. But I mean, really, like they all go together. Like, but you have to. Like, you can't have healthy relationships with anybody if you don't have boundaries,
yeah,
right?
100%.
Like you have to have boundaries in your relationships with your children. You
Mhm.
have to have boundaries in relationships with your parents. You have to have boundaries in relationship with your friends, with
Yes.
your significant others, with your employer.
Mhm.
Like they don't want to have boundaries with you.
Yeah, but
You have to have
no,
boundaries with your employer.
you finish your shift at 5 p.m. You're not checking your emails after 5 p.m. You're not responding back to emails at 5 p.m. You have your
Also,
set schedule,
you
right?
don't have to respond to an email at 4:59.
Exactly. I mean, I mean, if you were writing the email like 4:50 and you send it out by 4:59, fair enough, right? But if you get an email at 4:59, you don't necessarily have to respond back to it till the next day. But you do need boundaries for yourself because otherwise it's going to become an expectation that you are
Yes.
going to respond back at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., whatever it may be. So you
Yeah.
got to set,
And I promise, once you've set that expectation,
yeah, it's
you'll be so responding to emails at 2 a.m., buddy, and they'll be yelling why you didn't.
Yeah, they'll say what, well, you took too long to respond, right? And it's nope. It just and that's the thing, if you don't implement boundaries from the beginning and then you try to implement those boundaries, then it becomes an issue. And
Yeah,
so,
100%.
yeah. Okay.
Huh.
All right. That was a great conversation.
Yeah, listen, boundaries are great and wonderful, and they're hard to do, and
Mhm.
they don't always feel great, but in the end, they are exactly what every relationship needs. And
Yes.
so the more you practice, the easier it gets. And
Mhm.
that is the honest truth.
Yes, 100%. So keep your boundaries, respect other people's boundaries, live a boundary driven life. This is my last two.
I love that. Live a bounce driven life. It's the new bumper sticker.
I'm gonna, yeah, I'm gonna put it on a shirt, actually,
Oh,
just
yeah.
wear it around. Of
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you hanging out with me tonight.
course. It's good. Always good seeing you, Arlene.
All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the conversation. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow us on Instagram at Unwinding Support or email us at unwindingmentalhealth@gmail.com.